Tables and seats are now on sale for the biggest night in the digital video calendar, the TellyCast Digital Video Awards. We're celebrating excellence in the only award ceremony created especially for the social video industry, with over 100 channels, shows and series shortlisted across 27 categories. It all takes place on the evening of 5th of June during South by Southwest London Week at the luxurious Londoner Hotel in Leicester Square. The guest list reads like the who's who in the next generation of entertainment. So book your table, half table or seat now and join the talent and executives shaping the content industry of tomorrow. Just visit digitalvideoawards.co.uk to secure your place now. The TellyCast Digital Video Awards, the biggest night in the digital video calendar. We'll see you there. Welcome to TellyCast, the podcast exploring the trends shaping content creation and distribution. I'm Justin Crosby, and today we're diving into the fast-changing world of digital entertainment with Martin Trickey, Managing Director of Zoo 55, part of ITV Studios. Martin's had a fascinating career across digital media, and he now leads ITV Studios' digital-first venture, Zoo 55. We'll discuss his journey, the evolution of digital entertainment, and how Zoo 55 is driving ITV Studios' digital strategy. For over 200 videos featuring the movers and shakers of the content industry, just search TellyCast TV on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Martin, welcome to TellyCast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, well, it's great to have you on the show, finally. I know, well, say finally, you've only been at Zoo 55 for a couple of months now, right?
Yeah, since January, so it's all quite fresh.
Yeah. How are you enjoying it?
Oh, it's amazing. ITV is an amazing place to work, and it's full of the nicest people. So, no, I'm thrilled. It's brilliant.
Let's talk about your career so far then. As a jumping off point. I mentioned a few companies that you work for in the intro there. Shed, 2-4, BBC. Tell us a little bit about your career then, because this is a really key role for a major media company within the digital first space.
Yeah.
And it's a new role. So tell us about, the evolution of your career and why it was right for you to move to lead Zoo 55.
Okay. There's this concept of being a digital native, I suppose, which goes around and, employ digital natives. Now, I'm quite old. I'm in my mid-50s, but I am a digital native. So my dad bought a Binatone video game console, which had Pong on it in 1977. So that's when it started. So I've been playing video games since I was 7. I spent a lot of time on a Commodore 64. I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, not the coolest kid, frankly. Loved watching TV. So, growing up in the 70s flares, it was great. So what I'm doing now is literally a dream job. However, how I got there, it all sort of fell away a bit. I got a degree in economics. I used to be an English language teacher, but I guess where it all started was I was teaching the Brazilian Minister of Energy English in San Francisco, which was cool. I mean, that's a pretty good jumping off point. It was good, but it was very badly paid. And my partner at the time was working for a games company, an online games company, and we were living in San Francisco. And I didn't have any money, but she was doing quite well. And she used to take me to all of these amazing parties in the dot-com boom. And I was like, oh, this is cool, isn't it? I mean, just having the best time. And I was like, I really want to do this. But I'm teaching English. So I taught in the mornings, and in the afternoons I taught myself to code. I bought a book, Teach Yourself HTML in 24 hours. And about 6 weeks later, I'd got the basics down. Thinking, okay, look, if I want to do this, I'm going to have to make it work. So we then moved to Budapest, where the technical team for her company was, and I'm still teaching English. This time it's Hungarian civil servants. And then, as luck would have it, they needed a quiz question writer. So a native English quiz question writer, because part of their game portfolio for this company was called Uproar, was doing online quizzes. And they had a big kind of global community, but they burnt through the questions. And growing up, we used to like play parlour games and do quizzes and pub quizzes and all of that stuff. So I jumped at the chance and left my job teaching Hungarian civil servants and went and started writing quiz questions. And from that point onwards, I loved being part of that industry. I moved from quiz question writing to games production. We were part owned by Pearson, who at the time had the rights for Catchphrase and Family Fortunes. So the first game I ever produced was the version of Catchphrase. And that was just brilliant, just sitting there coming up with catchphrases and getting people to animate them and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. So just utterly brilliant. We then moved to London and we had this, this was before social media. So it's still in the 90s. Just come at the end of the century. And we had this thing called a Java applet, and it was a quiz game that would fit into a website. That was what people used to do back then. And our business development team got us a meeting with this TV company, and they'd got this new format for Channel 4, and they wanted the Java game to go into it, and some people to write questions about it, and it was called Big Brother. So my first job in telly, I suppose, was watching Big Brother, and then writing quiz questions about it, and I couldn't really believe my luck. And from there, I moved to the BBC. And again, it was still websites, and I was lucky enough then to work on Doctor Who and EastEnders, first seasons of Strictly, first seasons of The Apprentice, Dragon's Den, all of this kind of amazing content, and the BBC were doing fantastic things. It felt like the Wild West, and the opportunity to learn as things were changing so quickly, and then also to work out how the television world worked.
Well, it's interesting because you've worked with some massive brands, obviously, over the years. And a number of those brands are obviously ones that have really been pushing the envelope when it came to interactive entertainment, I suppose, over those years. And it's not necessarily how we would recognise interactive entertainment now, but back then there were quite a few sort of real trailblazers in terms of those key brands. Coming up today in your move to Zoo 55, then what is it that you think you're bringing to this new role?
I suppose firstly it's quite a lot of experience because it's now been 25 years I've been in the industry. The second thing is, and I've always tried to position myself in here mostly because I don't really understand how any of it works properly. So I don't really understand the technology, and I don't really understand television. But I know quite a lot about both of them, and I've just been able to position myself whereby I can try to translate between technologists, people who are at the cutting edge of new things, of new kinds of content, of new platforms, and the television industry, which has always tried new formats, but it's been quite traditional in the way it's done things. And I think what I'm trying to do is to be able to show both sides where the opportunities are, to be able to show that all of the amazing storytelling ability that sits within the television production world and how that's invaluable to technologists and people who have great creative ideas about how content can be consumed, and tried to put the two together. Obviously, there are also people who are brilliant at doing both, but I think if you've got an organisation, I mean, I've worked at Warner Brothers, I've worked at the BBC and now ITV. These are large organisations which have specialisms, and I think it's about trying to find the places that they can meet and work well together. That's the main thing I'm bringing. And also having worked for Warner Brothers for over a decade, they were very, very focused on revenue, and I think that's kind of key. At the BBC, very public service, Warner Brothers very revenue, and at ITV we've got a bit of a mixture of the two, so it feels like a really great place to be.
Yeah. You're working across everything when it comes to digital exploitation from an ITV Studios perspective. So that's gaming, that's fast channels, social platforms, etc. Where do you think the biggest opportunities lie right now? Want to get ahead in digital-first content? The Drop is the go-to newsletter for industry professionals, delivering insider news, trends, and insights straight to your inbox. Navigate the fast-changing landscape of digital-first production. distribution and monetisation. Sign up now for free at dropmedia.co.uk and stay informed with The Drop.
If you look back at the history of media over the last 40,000 years, fundamentally, we've always been about storytelling. We've always been about communicating, whether that was using our bodies to point and gesture, the spoken word, the written word, images from cave walls to television to radio to social. But the bits which have had the most impact of where content and the medium have come together. So if you look at the Reformation and the fact that you had Martin Luther with his 99 Theses, which was basically the world's first listicle, coming together with the Gutenberg press, where they were printing in Germany, en masse, a very clear reason about why you can't buy your way into heaven. Yeah. There was a moment where his ideas made technology, and it became a viral hit, for want of another word. I think where you've got, when you look at the Arab Spring and how social media perhaps had an impact on making that happen, with War of the Worlds and Orson Welles and radio, it had its moment around fake news. And I think latterly we've seen some really interesting stuff with the Gaza clip that Trump, not only was that was meant as a kind of satirical piece, but he took it and owned it and sort of took it on a whole new level. So
yeah, this looks good. Yeah,
AI and technology and fake news and social have all come together with some to create something. So I don't know what the next big thing will be, but it'll be when someone's great idea reaches the right technology platform. And I think for me, the most important thing is to be ready for it. Working for all the companies I've done, we were all about mass audiences, about hitting large numbers of people and trying to entertain as many people as we can with great quality content. So I think it's really important to be not necessarily too far ahead of the curve. We just need to be slightly ahead of where everybody is coming and be ready to do that. So
because you can be too early, and there's loads of examples of that in media over the years, haven't there? That what looks and sounds like a great idea, maybe the term is a bit before its time, right? That's the TV industry and the interactive industry is littered with examples of those.
Absolutely. So. But if you want me to give you an example rather than just fudging it, which I probably just did, and it's fair enough because you just don't know, but you just got to be ready. So the thing I'm kind of interesting and hope will turn into something, in China, there's all those micro dramas that are like sort of 30-second long, like massive numbers of episodes. I'm really interested to see, could that be a thing? It's sort of taking off in the States. Can that work with our sensibility? Is it too on the nose? I don't know, but I think that's an exciting thing that I'm looking at. Will it turn into something? I'm not sure, but let's be ready for it.
Yeah, well, that's exciting because certainly scripted is the area that is in perhaps most need of disruption. I mean, you see lots of factual content right across YouTube in particular, but also there's a real lack of original scripted content on social channels at the moment, obviously because of the cost of producing it. We all know that. But do you think there's real opportunity there? Do you think that's one of the things you're really keeping your eye on?
I'm keeping an eye on it. I mean, I don't know, because to your point is that you can make a great drama. There's three times. One's on the script, and then one's in the performance and the production, and then there's another opportunity in the edit afterwards to get all of these things right. And if you're cutting down the scripting time or using pre-existing scripts and stuff, and you don't get the chance to get the best performances out of people, and then you've got no edit time, it's a risky thing to try and do that. It becomes a different proposition. And I don't know whether it's one that the UK audience, for example, will take on board, but it might if somebody gets it right. And I don't know if it'll be us, but I'm just sort of looking at it. It could be, but equally it could be something else. But the great thing about being in Zoo is that we've got the opportunity and the sort of the responsibility on behalf of ITV is to be ready to go, okay, let's go and do that. Let's give it a go. Let's see if it can work.
So it feels like the TV industry, this is a big, this is a blanket statement, but the TV industry has just discovered YouTube, or discovered YouTube as a threat stroke opportunity within the last, well, it certainly seemed to me like 2024, maybe in the summer, was when people started to maybe it was the lack of commissioning that was happening that really started to bite, but also a whole number of articles started to get published about the size of YouTube, particularly on TVs, particularly in the States. And it started to become seen as a major platform rather than a social media channel. Why do you think it's taken the TV industry so long to cotton onto that?
I'd probably push back and say that I think that it has been recognised by maybe not as many people, maybe not the largest number of people who've been focused on, getting their commissions. But I certainly think for the last decade, there have been large parts of the broadcast industry that have been taking it seriously. I guess the difference now is that it's got to the scale whereby the revenues you can drive from it start to stack up against the revenues you might be able to get from a traditional tape sale, for example. So it's in the mix in a way that it wasn't before. Previously, you'd be going, you'd have a tape or you could stick it on YouTube. Which one are you going to do? Well, the chances are the tape was going to make you more money. If you couldn't sell the tape, then, well, why not use it? But that's no longer the case. It's more of a conversation now, and I think it's more strategic because also YouTube provides you global reach in a way that other platforms can't necessarily. So yes, it's certainly it's the scale. I think part of it is also the fact that it will take long form content, and it's developed, as all of these platforms do, into a place that landscape content is well received. The fact that your longer content actually does better. Obviously it's gone into shorts as well in response to Reels and TikTok, and they're all part of the ecosystem that we're working in. But YouTube has been reasonably consistent, and it has been a good partner to work with, and it's allowed you to build a business model around it over a period of time without being so, it's not too schizophrenic. So that stability means that you can start to plan, and that's incredibly important for a large business.
Do you think the TV industry is facing its print media moment though right now?
I don't think so exactly. I think it will play out very differently. You look at print media. Fundamentally, the content is still being delivered. The content still remains recognizable. And the major difference being is just being delivered over IP as opposed to satellite or whatever, those kind of things. So it's more gradual. The content hasn't changed radically. In fact, you might say that a lot of the stuff, the situation has led to people keeping hold of the same kinds of content, and innovation in terms of content has been curtailed slightly. So I don't think you're quite comparing apples with apples. I do definitely think, though, that it is causing disruption, and without a shadow of a doubt. That's absolutely clear. But as with all of these things, again, going back into history, if you look at, video killed the radio star, television, radio, social, podcasting. Podcasting has been around for donkey's years. It had its moment with serial, but is now coming back even stronger. All these media types have their place in the ongoing battle for people's attention, and all of them are important. And television, in the way I think you're talking about it in terms of like people sitting around their TV and having a shared moment, will continue to have that shared moment on a Saturday night or a sporting event, or even a great moment like. Like what happened with happens with Love Island or with Traitors, or where you go, it's a disappointment view. They're still going to be there. I just think that our attention is being split across more media types, but they're all going to continue to exist. You even still, I think probably Morse code still used on occasion if it's really foggy, and your Wi-Fi goes down.
So you're 2 months into your new role.
Yeah.
What are your first impressions then in terms of the opportunity? And because it's a big job, yours is a big role.
I mean, absolutely, I couldn't believe it. I'm utterly delighted to be there. Firstly, because ITV, I'd never worked there before, is a fantastic organisation, just full of the brightest people, the nicest people, and it's got an amazing culture. Honestly, it was so welcoming to be part of it. The second thing is the scale, as you say, the scale of the opportunity is vast. The being able to be tasked with unlocking the archive is just an utter dream. So there are over 90,000 hours of content. We've started to bring some of that out, but I was lucky enough last week to go up to Leeds to the archive there, and the content they've got in there is just phenomenal, and the knowledge that the people have who are looking after that archive is incredible, and it's about being able to unlock it. But really, it's about where do you start? And of course, the answer to that is about what's going to be the most popular. What rights do we have? Because we don't have the rights to anything. Is it digitized or is it on 2-inch tape?
Yeah, all
of these different things sort of come into mind. But it's just the most amazing opportunity. Also, alongside the archive, you've got the just all of the IP. So I mentioned Love Island. That is one of the key shows within the television ecosystem that everybody watches. It's a shared family experience. I've watched it with my daughter, and shows like The Voice and amazing dramas as well. ITV is knocking it out of the park in terms of content as well. So it feels like a really, really great time to be there. And then also, on top of that, they're sort of going, and what else can you do? So we've got this amazing IP, we've got this amazing archive, but what are you going to do with technology? What are you going to do with AI? What are you going to do with this incredibly talented group of people that we've assembled for you? Because I've walked in and I've got the brightest people working there. It's incredible. And then sitting behind that, Julian and Ruth are going, come on then. What are you going to do? So, honestly,
is it a blank sheet of paper?
No, it's not a blank sheet of paper, because I should say they did an awful lot of work before I got there. You don't go from nothing to 100 miles an hour. So Graham Hay, who's been there a while, has done the most incredible job in sort of building this business in games, in fast, in social video. So there's a lot of fantastic work that's been done. But what Zoo has done is given us a moment to supercharge it, to take it to the next level, and to do some stuff maybe that ITV hasn't done before, and to change people's expectations a little.
So you're talking about the catalogue, you said over 90,000 hours.
Yeah.
How do you decide what content you can now reimagine that for digital audiences? I mean, because there could be some absolute diamonds in there that maybe one series that was commissioned in the 70s, for example, that could be a blockbuster. But how do you find that?
It is all catalogued, so you can find the titles. That's not a problem. Being able to also, whether it's been digitized or not, which is a starting point. But if it's a great thing, there's no reason you can't go ahead and digitize that. And we have speeded up the process of being able to run through it and digitize all of that content, not just for exploitation, but it's also an incredibly important historical job and a responsibility of a public service broadcaster to hold on to that. Mm. When we were up there, there were tins, and there was the first episode of Corrie. They had the Queen's coronation in colour, and the 1966 World Cup in colour, and they were all there, and I didn't even know that existed. So, as an historical record, incredibly important, because they will degrade over time. But in terms of which ones do you go for, I think it's interesting. It's there's some things that will put things to the top of their list, which would be quantity. So it's great having a one-off drama or a 3-parter But trying to get that found is more difficult. Yeah. If you've got 17 series of something, then that's a better place to start.
That screams fast channel to you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does scream, because you can't make a fast channel out of a 3-part series. But also it takes time for people to discover stuff, and there could be some hidden gems in there. But you need to be able to give it a cadence of publication that will allow people to discover it. Because build it and they may or may not come. But you've got to build it, you've got to work it out, you've got to work out how that brand can still feel relevant to today. So to give an example from Warner Brothers, Super Nanny was a show that had many series in the UK and the US, and it did incredibly well on YouTube. But it took a while to break through. But also the way you cut it, the edit it, and the way you put it in front of an audience who is 13 and 14 years old, who weren't around when it was going out. They're going, does this look like it's been filmed on a potato? It was filmed on a potato. But these are evergreen. You know, the trials and tribulations of being a kid, of seeing yourself reflected on the screen are the same. And actually that show, it's difficult to make that show today. So it's incredibly valuable. So people can look at it and go, my God, I can see my elements of my family, maybe not the extremes, but I can see that, or I can see my friend's life in that. And so it's incredibly important. So finding the things that are evergreen, that will last, that have volume, then you've got to go, do we have the rights to it? You know, and what are the underlying rights to that? What are the payaways? All of this kind of stuff. And then you have to take into account things like the contributors who are on it, who may go, I don't want to be on that show anymore. I did it then, but I don't really want to be it now. I'm a different person. So contributor care is important. And then, of course, you then buy into the, we're actually already selling this somewhere. So, you know, then you have to weigh up, well, if we put it out there, that might put this deal in some kind of jeopardy. Let's have a conversation with the sales team. And strategically, as a distribution company, what makes the most sense in terms of how we exploit and distribute this content?
That's interesting you say that, because the attitudes to content being on YouTube and cannibalizing audiences, that seems to have really changed in the last year or so as well, doesn't it?
I definitely agree with you there. The idea of cannibalization was always a thing that was given back to me as like, well, you can't do that because then no one will watch it. And it's not true. There's a lot of data, and I think everyone who's got into this space now knows that generally if you put it out on YouTube, you can reignite a brand. You can make it also more popular on existing services, on fast channels. So all boats will rise, because let's face it, there are an awful lot of people in the world. And, you know, even if you've got 1 million views, well, that's not everybody, is it? So there's real opportunity for everybody to benefit from it. And I think, you know, in terms of when you look at clips and how they're put out now, often you'll take the best bit of a clip and you'll put it right at the top. And then if it's a reel, you'll loop around and come back to the beginning again, because you want to give away the best bits. So the medium has changed. We're talking about grabbing people's attention. And so we have to look at content in a different way. The stories are still the same, but maybe we sometimes have to start with the end rather than the beginning, or part of it. You know, have to think about it in a different way.
What excites you most about the way that, let's talk about social video in particular. What excites you most about the way that social video is heading and the opportunities that it's providing a company like Zoo 55?
I do think part of it is the ability to bring back some great content that is just sitting there doing nothing. So there's a few things that we're, you know, messing around, seriously looking at in terms of how we can bring that back. And one of the advantages of being older is that I was watching them then, so I remember a load of these shows, and I grew up with them, and you kind of go, oh my God, I can't believe that we could get to do something like that. so you know, I'm not entirely certain how well all of them have aged, you know.
Indoor League? Have you still got Indoor League?
I don't know that.
You don't know that
one?
No. Maybe that's just a Yorkshire Television one with Fred Truman and playing darts and cribbage and skittles
great.
and stuff. Yeah,
it might have a limited.
Well, Bullseye's coming back, right?
No, exactly.
So, you know.
No, but exactly. You take that. Maybe Indoor League could follow on the Ocky after that. But and like shows like, I think Mind Your Language probably haven't aged too well. Yeah. But there is absolutely some stone cold classics in there. Also, I think it's really interesting that we can use IP and social way in a different way. So I think that doing brand adjacent content is kind of interesting. Doing it, we're already doing it with like vodcasts. Here we are now, in that medium around Love Island. Around we've just launched the Loose Women podcast, and there's a new podcast around Emmerdale and Corrie. Which has just gone live. So being able to use social to be able to do the fan engagement piece is really great. I think one of the things that I definitely remember is that if you've got general content, it's quite difficult sometimes to find an audience of it. If you're talking to a particular fan base and you can supersert them, then it might not give you such big numbers, but it will give you really great engagement. I know that when we used to make content for Doctor Who on the BBC between, when it wasn't on TV, you'd always get feedback on what you were doing. And I mean, it wasn't always positive, but you definitely get it. So I think the fact is that you can get immediate feedback. The next thing is the data that provides is that if you can go in and you can see where the opportunities lie. You put a piece of content up and it gets a spike and you can see it's growing and it's being shared. You go, oh, there's something in there. So you put a bit more out. So rather than just taking wild punts, you can build a content strategy based on data. And I can't really stress how important that is.
But that's new. That's very new for a lot of distribution companies, isn't it? Because, having consumer data, rather than it being business to business transaction, selling to broadcasters.
Totally. But let me give you an example at Warner Brothers, and I think this could work anywhere in the business, is that Shed Media used to make Waterloo Road for I think 10 or 11 seasons of the BBC. It came to sort of a natural end of its life, and it was decommissioned, but there was still a big fan base. We kept that show going with clips, and then we moved into full episodes on YouTube, and those episodes did incredibly well. And so we box setted it on YouTube. That data allowed the sales team to go back and go to iPlayer, do you want this for iPlayer only? iPlayer put it onto the platform. I think it was the number 3 show in the year it went up. And this show is 10 years old. And then off the back of that, and it continued to perform. And it continued to perform with the demographic that the BBC wanted to reach. And then off the back of that, it's come back on TV. And it's still, but the difference there is I think iPlayer is its home more than it goes out on linear, but iPlayer is where people want to consume it. So using that data led to recommission, but it also led to us being able to find out the kind of storylines that people wanted. And so there is value not only in YouTube and social itself, there is value to the business and the entire ecosystem using all of these different kinds of programs, clips, and the data that underpins it to make sure that we're being as efficient as we can in our development and and with our IP.
Yeah, so I guess you could have a situation where you start to share some social clips from an old format that might end up being a big hit in, I don't know, Malaysia, for example, and then you've potential new commission for an old format. So
absolutely,
it's a way of reinvigorating old formats.
Without a doubt, and that's definitely part of the archive strategy in all of those shows. I'd like to go into a bit more detail, but I can't just now. But there are several that we're working on that we think that we can hopefully light a fire under and see if there is a global audience for.
Right, exciting. Okay, well, my last question then, Martin, for Zoo 55. What was the one thing about Zoo 55 that perhaps people don't know or people should know, do you think? I just
think that people should forget your expectations of what you think ITV should be. Zoo 55 wants to surpass those expectations. I want to surprise you with what we're doing. We want to be doing things that are different, and I think that's the most thing is that we aim to be successful and surprising.
And now it's time for Story of the Week, where my guests highlight the content industry story that's caught their eye in the past 7 days. Martin, what's your Story of the Week?
Well, coming from where I'm coming from, I think it's going to be The Sidemen going onto Netflix. I think, the fact that they started that off on their own channels and then brought that through to Netflix is really interesting.
That's right. Season 2, it's hitting Netflix all across the world over the next week or so. So it'd be exciting to see how that performs. Also, we're seeing an American version as well being commissioned. I think they're in production with it at the moment. It's been a remarkable success over the last 18 months or so since they launched Inside.
Yeah. Oh, and off the bat, Mr. Beast doing it on Amazon as well. So you kind of think the influencer-led format, they're showing that format still have a place. And I think, there's something potentially we can learn. I mean, obviously, ITV Studios have already done the collaboration on The Chase with the Sidemen, which is, it's really good. And I think there's a bit more we can think about doing in that space. Because we've got some incredible shows. So working those out together because, well, why wouldn't you? Yeah,
it seems to be a huge opportunity for formats going forward, coming both ways actually, both from a creator and from for a studio business. So okay, that's Inside coming out across Netflix this week. How about your hero of the week then?
So I guess that I feel quite lucky being on the podcast today because. As this is being recorded, everyone's just been watching Adolescence, which is utterly stunning. So I watched it last week, and what an amazing piece of television.
Is it that good? I keep reading the review. I haven't watched it yet, but it seems to be getting extraordinary reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is extraordinary, not only for the performances, the story, but also the way it was shot. Which with Stephen Graham, you've seen him do the one shot, before, but doing those 4 episodes, and we've been looking at the clips of the behind the scenes of the incredible way that it's been produced. So that's been fascinating to look at, and I think on top of that, the really interesting part is. Without giving any spoilers away, the part that social media plays in the storyline and the effect it has on the protagonist, and I think more than ever it highlights the fact that public service broadcasters and producers of quality content, like ITV Studios, have an absolute responsibility to make content that is positive, that doesn't have a negative effect on people, and it also what you see within that show is very thought provoking, and it made me kind of think, this is an important job that we've got. It's not just it's not too flippant. You've got to be careful about what you put up and really think about it and think about the implications of it. And that is something that we do think about all of the time, in terms of contributor care and the kinds of content that we're putting up. I just think we've got to be incredibly responsible about the type of content we put up. Okay.
All right. Well, that's another one for the watch list as well. How about get in the bin then, Martin? Who or what are you telling to get in the bin?
I'm telling Ian and Andy to get in the bin. So I'm remaining positive. So as I think I mentioned earlier in the pod, I went to Leeds and saw the amazing archive. But the absolute highlight, even above going in the Woolpack, was meeting Dusty Bin. So from 321. Now, there's a format that may or may not come back. Yeah. But honestly, for me, seeing, Ted Rogers, Dusty Bin was my childhood, and actually meeting him, it's up there with, a Dalek. To be honest.
Well, that's got to be. I think there's a brand partnership opportunity. Get in the Dusty Bin, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, totally. If anybody wants to get in the Dusty Bin, he's quite small. It would have to be. Yeah, maybe a child. That's not. No, we can't do that. We can't do that.
Martin, thank you so much for joining me on TellyCast this week. It's been brilliant speaking with you, and I'm looking forward to your session. We're going to have another chat, aren't we, at the How to Make Money in Digital on April the 3rd at 30 Euston Square. So everybody who's coming along to that event will look forward to that and speaking to you there again.
Thank you. Well, I hope I'll say something different.
All right, I'm sure we will.
I'll have to come up with some more stories.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, that's about it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. TellyCast was produced by Spirit Studios and recorded in London. We'll see you again next week for another show.